everybody, to the Sooner Nation podcast. Matt Hofeld along with Rich DeCray. Heartland-sports.com is the website. Breaking news today as Oklahoma has chosen to suspend starting quarterback, Heisman frontrunner Baker Mayfield for just a little bit of Saturday's game against West Virginia. Of course, this goes back to Mayfield's antics against Kansas on the sideline last Saturday. We're going to get into that. Rich DeCray, say hi to everybody.
Hi.
All right. Now he's contributing. He's contributing to the podcast.
Here's the thing, Matt. I have some serious thoughts myself about what went down on Saturday. And we'll get to that, obviously. But I'm going to throw it out there. Can I go ahead and start this thing off?
Yeah, man. Take off.
Here's what I want to know is, does a live broadcast of a sporting event run on delay or does it not?
See, I don't care about that. I know where you're going, and I know the conspiracy theory.
I'm not saying there's a conspiracy theory.
To me, that's when people get caught doing something and they look for a reason to not suffer the consequences of it. So I don't care that it was delayed. I don't care that ESPN chose to show it over and over again. I don't care that that they talked about it for 20 minutes. I do think it's funny that McElroy was talking about how egregious that was from Baker Mayfield, almost like as if he forgot his own two-gun salute to the Auburn fans. But the reality is Baker did it, and here's the thing. I don't agree with it. I don't like what he did. I don't like that he did it. But I don't like the character assassination that goes with it.
Right. And
I don't like the fact that people are failing. I watched a lot of football. Saturday is from wall to wall. It's 9 a.m. to midnight is football at my house. I think Jesse Palmer is the only person, and I'm not a huge Jesse Palmer fan, but I think he's the only person that I can remember on Saturday from the national media saying that it was a reactionary move by Baker Mayfield. Everybody else, and I mean, we try, Heartland Sports, Zach Lowe does an excellent job at covering Oklahoma State, and we do our best to try to do Oklahoma State coverage, and we try to be fair, but this Oklahoma State scenario, look, here's what Oklahoma State fans are doing. They are taking out the frustrations of their shocking loss to Kansas State. They're taking them out on Baker Mayfield because I don't know. It's to not see what happened in that game, from the opening failure to shake hands to the just nonstop barrage of words to the cheap shot, blatant cheap shot, and there's another one that OU actually got flagged on, Bobby Evans. That they had Baker Mayfield down, and there's a guy on the pile who's got Baker Mayfield's face mask and is turning his face mask towards the ground, which anyone who's ever worn a helmet knows what that does to your head and neck. And Bobby Evans comes in and knocks the guy off of Mayfield, and Evans gets flagged for the unsportsmanlike foul. But all of that, there was a clear target on Baker Mayfield. Does it excuse what he did? None at all. I support Lincoln Riley. I think the way Lincoln Riley has handled this situation from the post-game Saturday through his press conference on Monday to the announcing, just a little bit ago about Baker Mayfield being suspended, I think Lincoln Riley has handled this for a first-year coach. Man, you can't ask for a better situation or a better code of conduct from Lincoln Riley. But all that said, somebody has to come in here and throw a bone and say, yes, what Baker Mayfield did was egregious. What he did was wrong. It deserves punishment. But it was also reactionary. I'm still waiting. I'm still waiting for Hassan Defense to come back and say, yeah, I took a cheap shot. Well, how is that overlooked? Because I tweeted out during the game, a defensive back playing literally 100 miles an hour, trying to make a play on the ball, trying to make a play on the receiver, has just a fraction of a second to figure out what his target window is. And if he's off, if he's too low, he's a cheap shot guy if he's trying to hurt someone's legs. If he's too high, he's ejected for targeting. All that happens so fast. But Hassan Whiteside literally had seconds.
Not Whiteside, defense.
I'm sorry, Hassan Whiteside plays basketball. So I knew I was going to do that. But Hassan Defense had seconds Not fractions of seconds, seconds. And he took a cheap shot at Baker Mayfield, and it was just flagged for a 15-yard penalty. That's got to change. College football has to look at that and say, hey, this is – because what is the rule for targeting? If you lead with your head and you lead your feet, and if you watch that play, he leapt into Baker Mayfield. So all that to say, I think I think this suspension is just, but there's a lot more to this story. And unfortunately, it's taken the role of character assassination against the Heisman frontrunner as opposed to, hey, this is an unfortunate situation. Baker Mayfield reacted poorly to what happened to him. And I think that's the better way to spin this. And that's not even a spin. That's more like hashtag truth, whatever. I just did a hashtag truth sign on.
The reality, though, Matt, the reality here is defense did come forward and say, that was a boneheaded play.
No. Yes, but did he apologize? Not at all. Did he apologize to Baker Mayfield?
Should he?
Absolutely.
But wait.
No, stop.
Matt, you're the guy who sat here and told me that Baker Mayfield didn't need to issue an apology to anyone for planting the flag at Ohio State.
He didn't. Did they apologize to the University of Texas and to the state of Texas and the city of Dallas when they do that in the Cotton Bowl? No. That's part of what. Did OU ask for an apology when Iowa State planted the flag? No. That is totally.
So
you're telling me
why is this different? Explain to me. Why does he need to apologize?
Planting a flag is a team thing. I mean, you've got the game on the line. It's like trophies. You carry that trophy off the field. You've got Iowa State and Kansas. You've got Wisconsin, Minnesota. All these games have the trophy. You get these rivalries. Oklahoma and Texas is the rivalry. That was the Ohio State Oklahoma game was a huge game. Oklahoma was given no credit at all, no chance to win that game. And that comes with the territory. That is not an individual. We act like Baker Mayfield was at the 50-yard line by himself. There's about 12 other guys with Baker Mayfield.
Who formed a circle, yeah.
Exactly. And what were they doing? They were celebrating a victory. You're telling me Hassan Defense was celebrating something on Saturday?
No. But
he took a blatant cheap shot.
Yes, he did that.
And Baker Mayfield has deserved an apology for that. He's deserved an apology.
The reality for me is that's a David Beatty thing. And I say that because that was a team-wide thing. That was one incident.
I agree
with
what you're saying.
So I'm just saying, don't single out one player.
Well, I'm singling out the one player.
It needs to come from the coach.
No, granted, the head coach, and I thought, by the way, David Beatty's living on borrowed time. I mean, he's got his job for about another week to 10 days. Okay? But I don't expect much from him because Kansas hasn't expected much from him for 3 years. But Hassan Defense, you're telling me David Beatty told him, hey.
I'm not saying he told him,
Hassan Defense acted in his own accord, and he owes Baker Mayfield an apology. And the Big 12 needs to look at what he did. And the Big 12 needs to come down. All I'm saying is this. Baker Mayfield was wrong on Saturday. He's not the only person who was wrong. What I said in our recap was, and I'm sorry about the language if this is a language issue, but I said Baker Mayfield didn't start the pissing contest, but he sure finished it. And here's the thing. He was wrong. But Kansas has gone from being the instigators in this whole deal to being the victims. Was Baker Mayfield the only guy wrong on Saturday?
No.
Then why is Baker Mayfield the only guy who has to apologize?
I'm going to go back, and I'll say this, and we can leave it alone. I do think Kansas as a team came up with a game plan. And that game plan was we are going to attempt to get into Baker Mayfield's head.
Which just shows how dumb David Beatty is.
No handshake. The kids were in on no handshake. And from there, I can only imagine. Did you see that little girl? That little girl just kind of turned and looked like, okay. I can only imagine.
Kids were in on it.
Here's all I know is when you see the handshake, Baker Mayfield reaches out. Those kids' hands are behind their backs, whether they were being coerced into that type of an action. And so Baker Mayfield's reaction, he claps and he laughs. Nothing up until that point had given any indication that anything would have been odd until we got to that coin toss, until we got to that handshake. Needless to say, this is what I was going to say, and I was going to leave it alone, is I do believe that was a team effort of attempting to get into Baker Mayfield's head, and there were players who took it too far. That was their decision, because I don't think anyone issues a hit, so to speak, on another player, regardless of what their name is or regardless of what program they're playing.
So then Hassan Defense owes an apology.
Sure, but like I said, I still think it needs to come.
Well, it's not going to come from David Beatty.
It's not a single player.
David Beatty is about to lose his job, and the idea that you can irritate Baker Mayfield and get his head at the coin toss. Have they not? Do they? Of course, they're Kansas. Do they not live under a rock? I mean, have you never seen Baker Mayfield play? Have you never seen the chip that this guy has on his shoulder? Why make that chip even bigger? I mean, at what point did Baker Mayfield exhibit poor sportsmanship? Third quarter when he grabbed his crotch and yelled "F you"? Okay. Did he do it? Yes. Did he apologize Saturday night? Immediately he apologized. Said there was no excuse for it. Is he getting suspended? Is he getting punished? Yes. But at what point did the Kansas Jayhawks exhibit poor sportsmanship? Before the game even started. Exactly. So why are we making Baker Mayfield the only guy who did something wrong?
I do have an answer for you for that, and that simply boils down to Baker Mayfield being the face of college football.
I think
when you say NCAA football,
no.
When you say NCAA football, who comes to mind?
Saquon Barkley,
JT Barrett.
Well, it just depends. I mean, my man Scott Styles at KGSO in Wichita, Kansas.
ESPN didn't call up Bryce Love to do an interview.
I know, but here's the thing. I don't get it. Again, I don't get into the conspiracy theories. I just get into hey, Baker Mayfield took it to the extreme, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And so now that just and culturally, what that means is then Kansas is off the hook for all that they did. And I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that at all. I have a 7-year-old daughter. I've raised 3 other kids that are grown. If my kid ever pushed another kid, punched another kid, hit another kid, bit another kid, which all children are guilty of doing that at one point in their life, you know what? They apologized. Mm-hmm. But there were also times where I kind of expected the other kids' parents to make them apologize as well. I mean, we're going so far off script. Okay, so my oldest son is 21 years old. His sister, who is now 18, a college freshman, when they were little, we were at one of these Chuck E. Cheese type restaurants, ball pit type thing, and Craig, my oldest son, has always been, he's the big brother, and literally the big brother, former college football player, all-state quarterback. He's watching out for his sister, and she's like 18 months old, and she's playing in the ball pit, and she's trying to get out, and this little boy, he reaches up from the ball pit, and he grabs my daughter by the back of her little overalls and pulls her back down. And so, of course, she's upset. She's 18 months old, right? And so Craig jumps in the ball pit, and he's trying to help his little sister out of the ball pit. And this kid does it again. He reaches up and he pulls her down. I'm watching all this happen. And when he does it the second time, I get up and start walking towards the ball pit to be that parent, that kind of mediates the situation. So Craig looks at this little boy and says, "Stop it. Just stop it," right? So Amy, my daughter, goes one more time to try it, and here comes the little kid. He's reaching up one more time to pull her down. And you know what Craig does?
Socks that kid.
No, he just totally picks that kid up and body slams him in the ball pit so his sister can get out. I made him apologize. I made him apologize to the little kid. But you know what? The little kid's mom was so irate that little Johnny got body slammed. She totally neglected to look at what little Johnny did. I mean, I just feel like that's where we are. Baker Mayfield body slammed Kansas, and now he's the only one who's guilty of doing anything wrong on Saturday, which I think is just total crap.
Hey,
that was sorry. I'm sorry I got so far off track with that story.
I get the big hubbub. I get the big ordeal, why it's a centerpiece for conversation, but let's be honest here. What Baker Mayfield did, I can walk down the street in my neighborhood and see that all day long. Exact same thing.
Yeah.
That's beside the point. That's not
doesn't
to
make it right,
validate it.
Yeah, it's right.
Not to argue for who cares.
Okay.
This is national TV, all eyes on
let's talk about the suspension. Is it warranted? I mean, do you feel like...
Yeah, absolutely.
Does the punishment fit the crime?
Here's the thing. And I know I sat there and I watched the press conference with Lincoln Riley. He was asked the question, does this being stripped of captain status on senior day, not starting again on senior day as a starter, does it not only stem from this one incident, but is it past incidents that have all occurred during his senior season? Lincoln Riley says no at this point in time, and I know Lincoln Riley has a very well-established relationship with Baker Mayfield, and I know you probably didn't have an opportunity to watch this.
I saw how emotional he got. Is that where you're going?
He just got dead silent.
Yeah, because he's choking back. Yeah, I've never seen Lincoln Riley.
I know that was a hard decision for him. I think it's warranted. I don't think it stems from other incidents, but it's hard for me to say that those don't play a part, a minor part. And I say that because I know that losing that starting role, and I know not being a captain on senior day, as a guy who prides himself on at least attempting to be a role model for others, stripping that from him is a huge deal to Baker Mayfield. I think it hurts him the most to hand out those punishments today.
No, undoubtedly, anybody who's ever played the game of football, coached the game of football, been around the game of football, what Lincoln Riley did by taking away the cap it's not just he lost the captaincy, he lost it on senior day. Mm-hmm. This is a guy who is a polarizing figure at this university. He's going to be an iconic quarterback. You're not married, single ladies. You're not married, but when you have kids, when you have kids and they grow up with their daddy watching OU football, they're going to know about Baker Mayfield. That's who this guy is to this university. There very well may be a statue of him in Heisman Park next season. Okay, this guy is going to be a part of the legacy of Oklahoma football for the rest of the eternity of Oklahoma football, right? And to lose captaincy in that last game, his last chance to play in front of this is a guy who grew up loving Oklahoma football. Left Texas Tech without having any sort of contact, any sort of offer to come play here, has won the job, has won the hearts of the fans, has captivated a nation with his play. Did you see what Mike Gundy said about Baker Mayfield?
No.
In Monday's conference, Mike Gundy asked about Baker Mayfield, his ability to make plays when a play breaks down. Not only did Mike Gundy compare Baker Mayfield to Vince Young, Mike Gundy said that Baker Mayfield is better than Vince Young at improvising when a play breaks down. That's who this guy is. And so to lose being the captain of the team on that last game, that to me, that's more that hurts Baker Mayfield, and I think it hurts Lincoln Riley a whole lot more than putting Kyler Murray in for a quarter or a half. You don't agree with
quarter, half? It could be one series.
It could be.
Nobody knows.
I think it's more than one series. I think it has to be more than one series. I really do. Honestly, I think it may depend on game flow. I think it's up to a half. I really think they're saying, hey, this is up to a half. If we're dominating, but by the way, it doesn't hurt that West Virginia's coming in with a backup quarterback. If Oklahoma's dominating this game, I can easily see the suspension going 2 quarters and then Baker Mayfield comes out for a couple of drives in the third quarter. If it's out of control, then that's all we see of Baker Mayfield. But also, if it's at the end of the first quarter, if it's like 7-7, 14-14, or OU's down, I see Baker Mayfield coming out to start the second quarter. Thoughts? You don't agree with the Vince Young comment either.
I don't like Vince Young.
Well, I don't like nobody. Nobody who wears crimson and cream likes Vince Young.
I winced at that comment, and it really comes down to NFL potential, because that tells me it's not there.
For Baker?
Yeah.
No, you're looking way.
That's all I'm saying is when you start talking about Vince Young and his football IQ, measurable skills, they weren't really there for Vince Young, were they? So, needless, that's a conversation for another time.
No, because I can't let this go. Because Because Vince Young had a different tool set than Baker Mayfield does. And Vince Young, a lot of people thought Vince Young was going to fail at the next level because the X's and O's change in the NFL. Mm-hmm. And where a play can break down and you can just make things happen out of pure athleticism, you can get away with that a whole lot in college, but you can't get away with it as much in the NFL. There are exceptions to the rule.
Let me interrupt you.
But before you throw Deshaun Watson out there,
I'm not going to.
I was just asking you to look at how many interceptions Deshaun Watson has thrown this year.
I was going to ask you if Vince Young was just ahead of his time.
No, Vince Young was not.
Well, we've seen guys who are prone to run.
Yeah.
Who are prone to scramble. The Russell Wilson was the character who started that. That was after Vince Young.
No.
I'm saying it's popular to do that now. It's this collegiate type offense we're seeing permeate the NFL.
Vince Young was an athlete who played quarterback. Baker Mayfield is an athletic quarterback.
Who could play running back.
Different. Christian McCaffrey. I didn't like Vince Young. Burnt Orange, man. Burnt Orange versus Crimson and Green. I didn't like him. But the reality is you have to give Vince Young credit for what he did in 2005. And what a lot of people
single-handedly won that championship.
What a lot of people don't realize is that Vince Young had one good college season. He had one good college season. Baker Mayfield's had 3. And when we say about Vince Young single-handedly winning the national championship in 2005, don't we feel like Baker Mayfield can do that in 2017? Isn't that what everyone's talking about? That this is Baker Mayfield's drive. This team is riding on Baker Mayfield. Just Baker Mayfield's a better quarterback than Vince Young was. So suspension. I'm going to put you on the spot. 1 quarter, 2 quarters, 2 drives. What do you think?
I honestly have no idea. So this is a complete stab in the dark. I'm going to go with it is going to be a quarter. The real reason for that being is Kyler Murray is a capable quarterback. We've seen just how speedy that guy can be. He may not have the height that a lot of people look for in a quarterback, but it doesn't mean he can't throw the ball. This is a guy who is a born winner. So when he steps onto the field, I think we're going to see that come out in him as we have in the past. But at the same time, it's not going to warrant pulling Kyler Murray for a shootout style game.
There's no way. In my opinion, I don't see how this is a shootout game.
I agree.
Just
credit the defense.
Credit the defense and also credit Will Greer's finger going the wrong direction. Will Greer's in this game I think is different.
Yeah.
But I'm not saying West Virginia's not going to score points, but I don't see this being like what we saw with Texas Tech that first.
Well, and we may see a completely different offense from West Virginia that we haven't seen before.
Yeah, true. Kyler Murray, you know my theory on Kyler Murray, and I think there's legitimate cause to my theory of Kyler Murray. So is this his one time to shine as an Oklahoma quarterback?
It may very well be. Kyler Murray is an extremely gifted athlete. To be able to play 2 sports at the Division I level is, I don't want to say extremely rare, but it's more of an oddity than it is something that's common. So when you get a guy with that type of talent coming through, you've mentioned it, Matt. He's been drafted once. He'll be drafted again. The only question that remains is
We're talking baseball here, just for people who are just tuning in and not realizing.
Will it be enough money on the table, actual dollar bills, to lure Kyler Murray away from collegiate football?
Okay, I'm putting you.
You and I had an argument.
Stop. Don't finish that sentence because we're going to bring that argument live here to the Sooner Nation podcast. Rich DeCray, I'm Matt Hofeld, Heartland-Sports.com. The website, you can check us out Facebook Live right now. Also catch us on iTunes and TalkShoe as well as at Heartland-Sports. Okay, so here's the thing. Here's my theory. Sorry, let me go to my non-sponsored 7-Eleven Big Gulp for a drink.
You gotta flash the logo.
Oh.
The other side.
Oh. Whatever. So, clearly non-sponsored. But I will be sending a bill. So you're Kyler Murray. And my theory is Kyler Murray is good enough at baseball that he is going to go in June he's going to get drafted high enough to get a substantial signing bonus. Not guaranteeing that he's going to be playing for the New York Yankees when September rolls around, but he's going to get a high enough signing bonus, guaranteed money up front. So you're Kyler Murray, and here are your options before you. And if those of you listening on Facebook Live, please jump in on this. Kyler, you can come back and be the starting quarterback for a team that's fairly loaded offensively and defensively with young talent. You got to retool the offensive line, but having offensive line struggles better suits Kyler Murray's skill set. So you can come back and make a run for a fourth consecutive Big 12 championship and a potential back-to-back playoff run, or you can take $1 million plus in signing bonus dollars and go begin your baseball career. Now, keep in mind that Kyler Murray's future is most likely in baseball. What are you doing? What are you doing in June? Tell me where are you going to be?
Tell me where he's being drafted. If you had to pick a number 1, 2, blank, he would be drafted inside of that.
I mean, there's like 70 rounds of the MLB draft. I'm just saying he's drafted high enough to getting guaranteed $1 million plus in signing bonus money. I'm just saying that's where he's drafted, high enough to get at least $1 million plus. What are you doing? Are you coming back to OU for another year of football?
I've told you. I think baseball is a very lucrative sport. I understand that, and I know that baseball, when compared to other sports, typically has the most money. Unfortunately for me,
you're a big OU fan, and
no. Unfortunately for me, is I look at the vast number of baseball players worldwide, and I realize that just because you're drafted, even if you're drafted in the top 200, doesn't mean that you're going to play in the show.
No, but I'm not talking about playing in the show. I'm talking about money. What did Randy Moss say? Straight cash, homie. That's what I'm talking about.
You didn't get the accent he's got. But
yeah, I can't do that.
Here's what I'm saying is, if there's just $1 million signing bonus on the table,
million plus, million's the minimum.
I think I could get more than that in the NFL.
No, he's not going to get more than that in the NFL. Kyler Murray is not going to be an NFL quarterback.
He may not be. But could he play receiver?
He's not going to be a Terrell. Has he played receiver in college?
No.
He's not going to.
Terrell Pryor did.
But what I'm saying is, no, Terrell Pryor was drafted as a quarterback and transitioned to a receiver. Kyler Murray's not going to get drafted as a quarterback, and you're not going to spend a lot of money on a kid that's a project. He can make more money in baseball. That's where his future is. And you haven't answered my question. Are you taking the money and run, or are you coming back?
If it's me,
yeah.
I've already answered this question on Saturday. I'm going to answer it the same exact way today. I'm not taking the money.
You're crazy.
It's not a guarantee. $1 million doesn't go that far today.
Well, then I'll take $1 million and prove you wrong, dude.
What, you gonna pay off a house and a car?
Give me $1 million. Give me $1 million, and I will live off the interest very comfortably.
Will you?
Yes, I will.
You gonna invest that in Acorns or something?
Hey man, Acorns is a good investment.
Our second sponsor,
but you have like a $5,000 limit or something there. Okay.
Braxton Miller, I think, is an example for Kyler Murray.
He's not even going to be. It's apples to oranges there. I'm just telling you, you're crazy on that.
Maybe.
Cody Thomas had a better chance at having an NFL career than what Kyler Murray is going to have.
Yeah, but Cody Thomas couldn't crack the depth chart.
Cody Thomas started.
He started due to injury, and I'm saying.
You're telling me a quarterback with starting experience would not have been number 2 on the depth chart last season, ahead of a true freshman, Austin Kendall, who, by the way, is being redshirted this year. You're telling me this spring a quarterback who would be a senior with starting experience would not have a chance to win the quarterback job? You're insane.
He would have had a chance, but he wouldn't have started.
I don't know. I'm just saying Cody Thomas had a better chance at an NFL career than what Kyler Murray does. And this is no knock against Kyler Murray in his football playing ability. I'm just saying he's that much better at baseball. So whatever. Okay, Kansas. Give me some thoughts from the Kansas game.
I don't have any. I'm done with you.
All right, let's go to.
No. Here, when we look at Kansas, I think what Oklahoma did on the field, more specifically defensively, should have impressed a lot more people than what it probably did, based off of the antics that took place in that game. When you hold a team to 3 points and you're still playing a true freshman at corner in the Big 12, I consider that a pretty big success. Trey Norwood, I think, has had 7 pass breakups in his 2 starts, which, by the way, leads the team.
Yeah, Trey Norwood has been impressive.
He's lanky. He needs to add some pounds.
Well, but he's a true freshman, and I think we'll see him do that. He's been impressive. I mean, there's no way around that. I do think, though, we need to pump the brakes a little bit here, because I think you got to look at two things. Two things. You got to look at competition. TCU doesn't have the type of quarterback like a Mason Rudolph, like a Will Grier, like a Baker Mayfield. Mm-hmm. Kenny Hill he's a game manager, not a game breaker, in my opinion, throwing the football. Now, he could be a game breaker and running the football, but throwing the ball. So, and then it's Kansas, dude. I mean, holding Kansas to 3 points, I don't know that you really beat your chest to that, because it's Kansas. And then the other thing to consider here, I think that we got to pump the brakes on a little bit and just have a dose of reality, is the win factor. Because you can make a case that for the first quarter, Kansas' defense really shut down Oklahoma's offense. You can make a strong case for that if you neglect to mention the win factor.
Yeah.
And I think the win factor really was I firmly believe the win factor had more to do with Oklahoma stalling in the first quarter than what Kansas is doing defensively. Mm-hmm. And if I'm going to take that stance, which I do, I also have to say it had an effect on Kansas as well, which helped the defense and guys like Trey Norwood look a little bit better than what they actually are. Not saying he's not good. I'm just saying let's pump the brakes a little bit before we put this guy as the next.
And when I'm not saying he's the next great anything.
Right.
Like, if we're looking for a guy like a Zach Sanchez and Aaron Colvin, Sam Proctor, even if you wanted to go that far, say a guy who's on that level, I just don't know. I'm putting Trey Norwood there this season. Could he grow to that potential? Yeah. Absolutely. Is he there this year? No.
Right.
We've seen stupid mistakes from him, but we've also seen those stupid mistakes save touchdowns and just give up 10, 15 yards.
As a former coach, I'm firmly in favor of, especially in college. In the NFL, you get the ball on the goal line or the 1 yard line. In college, it's 15 yards.
Well, here's where I was going with that was when we looked at, you're mentioning the wind, you're mentioning Kansas. Kansas made some pretty spectacular throws, and they were there several times in the game. So going back to Trey Norwood's, he's not the greatest thing since sliced bread at this point in time. Did Kansas make some throws? Was that available? Did the wind affect it? Yeah, I am in agreement with you there. But we saw those, just leaping grabs 40 yards down the field.
So Joshua Hansen says on Facebook, it seems like Mayfield was having to wait a long time for receivers to get open against Kansas. Were the Jayhawks playing exceptional defense, or were our guys struggling to beat their defenders? Or were the routes, the offensive scheme not right for the defense Kansas was running? Just curious what you expect coach to do when Mayfield can't find open guys. There's a lot here what Josh was saying, but let me just say I think it goes back to the win factor, because the win factor itself takes away the deep ball. It's hard to throw. I don't know if you've ever tried to throw a football into a strong wind. Even punt into a strong wind is another thing.
Yeah, we saw that.
But the reality is the wind takes away the deep ball. So if you're Kansas, what you do is you cover underneath, and then you use what I believe, and even Orlando Brown said this last week. He compared Kansas defensive front to Ohio State. Not Iowa State, but Ohio State, and how strong they were. We talked about on our podcast last week that Kansas has, I think, a legitimate second or third round draft pick on playing defensive end. And so when you take away what's deep, you cover the middle, you cover the shadow, it makes it difficult for a quarterback to find his read. And so he has to go through that progression a little bit longer, because he knows if he tries to throw a deep ball into the wind, it turns into lame duck city, which also turns into interception opportunities. And so I think you do have to give the Kansas defensive front, just that line, some credit for being, well, we say they're Kansas, but they're actually pretty good. And then you have to talk about the wind. We already covered it. And so I do think they made adjustments third quarter that kind of put this game out of reach. But initially, it was a struggle with the wind.
It's easy to forget a name like Armstrong for Kansas because of their record.
Right.
But Armstrong was picked as the Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year, and that's something that can't be ignored for any offensive line, for any offensive coordinator for that matter. You're looking at where that guy is, where he's lined up, and what he's capable of. And so needless to say, I do agree with you. Give Kansas credit for, I mean, they really, I didn't feel like there were a lot of chances for Baker Mayfield to scramble and stretch a play outside of the pocket. They consistently forced him towards the middle, which is what you want to do with a guy like Baker Mayfield, because then he was swallowed up at the line of scrimmage. I remember one specific play. There just wasn't any running room. And so, again, credit the Kansas defense. Don't forget about a name like Armstrong. But the wind, of course, is always going to have some kind of a factor when you're playing in the Midwest.
Hey, let's jump back. I'm looking at my notes here. Jump back to Baker Mayfield for just a quick second. By the way, thank you, Joshua Hansen, for writing in and giving us something to talk about. University of Texas fans, Oklahoma State fans, and apparently ESPN, which I guess you can categorize as University of Texas fans, they all seem to think that Baker Mayfield's antics are going to cost him Heisman votes.
No, not even close.
All right, I just
the track record, the history of the Heisman vote over the past 10 years.
If Jameis Winston can win the Heisman, then I don't think Baker Mayfield has anything to worry about. Mm-hmm. Right?
Or Johnny Manziel, for that matter.
Well, yeah, but I'm just saying, I think Jameis Winston was a lot more egregious than Johnny Manziel.
Well, crab legs?
Well, crab legs and comments made in public cafeterias. So anyway, okay. So Stillwater, man, we got to talk about this because the Big 12 championship game was supposed to go down to this weekend. Oklahoma could secure their spot by beating Kansas and hoping for a West Virginia loss. Now, West Virginia losing to Texas was a lot more imaginable than what happened in Stillwater. Oklahoma State started the day cheering for Texas Tech to pull off an upset against a backup quarterback. And even if that didn't work, you go handle business against Kansas State. The next weekend you have Kansas and you hope Baylor pulls off an upset. How shocked were you I know we were into the OU Kansas game, but score peeking at what was going on in Stillwater, rate your shock value there and seeing that game unfold.
I think the first time I saw the score was somewhere along the lines of like 34-14. Mm-hmm. I don't remember the exact score, but it was of that nature. And I'm looking at a Kansas State team that I sat here last week with you and said they have nothing to play for. Mm-hmm. Literally, I thought they had nothing to play for. That has changed with bowl eligibility. But needless to say, they weren't playing for a title. They're really playing to, in my opinion, honor Bill Snyder, because there have been articles written that there have been articles. Bill Snyder built this program, but he's also destroying it.
Right.
And so Kansas State, looking at just their overall situation, I didn't think it was favorable walking into Stillwater against what we've touted as one of the best offenses in the country.
Yeah, and that's where I picked this game was based off of what Oklahoma State was able to do offensively. And to put it out there, Mason Rudolph did struggle. This offense struggled, but they still put up enough points to beat Kansas State. What I didn't see happening was, and what I said was, Kansas State offensively would not be able to match Oklahoma State stride for stride. And I picked this game to get out of control in the third quarter. I just didn't realize it was going to get out of control in the third quarter towards Kansas State's side. What happened defensively for Oklahoma State? I mean, they're still scratching their heads in Stillwater. And now what you have to look at the aftermath of this. This is a team going back to August. Sports Illustrated picked Oklahoma State not only to win the Big 12, but to make a run in the college football playoff. Most people had Oklahoma and Oklahoma State playing one another in the Big 12 championship game in Arlington. We were supposed to get Bedlam 2.0. And up until last Saturday, that was still a possibility. Now, all this has been ripped out from underneath the rug. The Cowboys are going from potentially going to the playoffs to most likely going back to the Alamo Bowl. What is the fallout? I mean, if you're Mike Gundy, you're rumored for jobs at Florida. You're rumored for jobs at Tennessee. Is it time to take this? I mean, he's still kind of on a high note. He's losing Mason Rudolph. If there were a time for Mike Gundy to exit, don't you think now's the time? And if Mike Gundy stays, do you feel like somebody has to be the fall guy for this team not exceeding expectations? Because I feel like if there's no change, really, this is I'm going to say this, and it just is what it is. I feel like if there are no changes at all for Oklahoma State, then it's the mentality of, well, we're Oklahoma State. This is what we do.
So when you're saying changes, what kind of changes could there be? Because
I think on the defensive side of the ball.
Well, no. I was going with the coaching.
Okay.
Because you're talking about Mike Gundy being rumored at these other places. He signed that 5-year extension at the beginning of, in the summer of this year.
Yeah, but that was a long, dramatic process.
All I'm asking is, can Gundy opt out of that?
Sure he can. I mean, any coach can opt out of any contract.
Okay, perfect.
There's going to be a buyout.
I didn't know how that works. A buyout if he chooses to leave, not fired?
Yeah, like, for example, you sign that contract, Tennessee hires him. Tennessee is going to have to throw some money towards Oklahoma State. But you see programs do that all the time.
Yeah. All I was going to say was I had the feeling this summer that Mike Gundy wasn't the happiest of campers at Oklahoma State.
Right.
And I think has a lot to do with Boone Pickens, who isn't going anywhere, by the way.
No, neither is his money. But here's the thing. With all that money, with that new stadium, came a lot of expectations.
Right.
And this year was, hey, at the end of the day, you did win the 1945 National Championship in 2017. But that's not what Boone Pickens was paying all the money for.
I'm just thinking to myself, if Gundy does leave, would the fans be sad? Would they be upset at that decision? Because I'm staring down an article right here that says fans would like for him to leave.
Well, there's always
knowing who's on the table for them to hire.
Who?
John Gruden.
John Gruden is not coming to Oklahoma State. I'm just telling you right now. Let me tell you this. In Oklahoma State's last 4 games, they gave up 39 points to West Virginia, 62 points to Oklahoma, 42 points to Iowa State, and 45 points to Kansas. So if Mike Gundy stays, there's got to be a shakeup. I don't know that you can say Mike Yurcich is gone because you got Mason Rudolph. But again, Mason Rudolph's leaving. This is a team that's starting from scratch next year.
Right.
You've got Justice Hill, who'll be a junior, probably his last year in Stillwater. But still, I mean, who do you have at quarterback? And it doesn't matter. We saw with Adrian Peterson, one of the greatest running backs ever to play college football. When your quarterback situation is struggling, it doesn't matter who your running back is, right? But I don't see a change there. I think Mike Yurcich is safe, and Mike Gundy has had so much play with the offense. I think the guy you start looking at is Glenn Spencer, the defensive coordinator. And the Big 12, you're going to give up points. If you're a defensive coordinator, you're going to give up big points. But also, when you don't meet or exceed expectations as the defensive coordinator, you're also going to be the first guy that gets on the scapegoat train. I just feel like somewhere something has to change in Stillwater this year. Right or wrong? I mean,
I do agree because this was. Here we go, Matt. This was the year. This is literally the best team that Oklahoma State has had since those Brandon Weeden years.
Yeah, I mean, you go back to 2011.
Nothing even comes close to those under Mike Gundy's tenure at Oklahoma State.
Yeah, well, 2011, you have Mike Gundy leading this team. They literally stumble in Ames, Iowa, And this was supposed to be the redemption. This is it. We are as good as we were in 2011. We didn't finish in 2011. You lose to TCU, that's okay. You're still in the thick of it. You lose to Oklahoma, you have an outside chance. You lose to Kansas State, which is just the unthinkable.
You're talking a lot about the defense. I've seen a little bit of mirror images in Oklahoma. Oklahoma State taking on these characteristics a little bit later in the year with slow starts offensively.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Oklahoma had that problem early on. And we've seen a little bit of a resurgence there, not so much over these past couple of games, given the factors that have played out, the intangibles such as the win against Kansas. But Oklahoma exploded in the first half in the previous week against TCU for 38 points and then didn't. And you said by design, which I'm fine with. We're not rehashing that argument. You said no points in the second half, no cause for concern.
No.
So we have seen these offenses kind of find their niche and then struggle at the same time. And so what I'm saying with Oklahoma State is I think you could look at the slow start on offense because they exploded in the fourth quarter. If they had played like that the whole game, Kansas State wouldn't have won. So what happened there? I think it's a one-game sample, obviously. You could pin that one on the offensive play calling.
Yeah, but see, here's my thing. When you put up 40 points, it's not the offense's fault you lost.
It isn't. You're right. I would even venture to say 30.
Well, right.
30 is typically a winning number.
I just feel like I feel like you're just kind of grasping
at straws.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you look at Mason Rudolph. Mason Rudolph's had a great career and has had a great final season at Oklahoma State. I look at this and I'm saying there's two guys that are on the chopping block, so to speak, scapegoats for this. It starts with Mike Gundy, and Mike Gundy, I think, has an automatic out if he wants it. And then you go to Glenn Spencer. That's who you got to go to next. Let's talk West Virginia. We're down to the final. What are you laughing at?
So I told you I pulled up this article about John Gruden. All of this is just coming via a chat board, via rumors, via wishes. And so someone actually hashtagged this, the John Gruden coming to Oklahoma State, as groomers.
Okay, I'm sorry I asked what you were laughing about.
Yes.
Okay, West Virginia. West Virginia comes in. I got to look really more defensively what they're able to do than I do offensively. And the Mountaineers are bottom half of the Big 12 and scoring defense. What is there anything that knowing if Will Grier is healthy? If Will Grier is healthy, it's a whole nother thing for me. But without Will Grier being healthy, I think this game is uncomfortably close, but I'm not scared Oklahoma loses it. The Mountaineers second in the Big 12 in passing defense.
Uncomfortably close?
I do think it's going to be uncomfortably close.
You just told me Kyler Murray's going to play a full half.
I'm telling you it's going to be uncomfortably close. Yeah. But here's West Virginia's number 2 in the Big 12 in pass defense, but they're number 9 in the Big 12 in rush defense. And I think Rodney Anderson has a difference-making type of performance here, especially with Kyler Murray playing one quarter to one half. I think this game's uncomfortably close, but I don't worry about them potentially losing this game without Will Grier being in there. That's my thought. Your thoughts on West Virginia?
Yeah, Will Grier, I've labeled him all season long as the X factor for West Virginia. Without him, you've basically removed that. Will Grier, one of the guys that I've witnessed all season long, capable of throwing a deep ball and throwing it well, not just throwing it out of bounds here, but in a catchable place, which is the reason I've labeled him that X factor, because when you give out chunks of yardage, it puts you in a tight spot defensively with this conference that we're in and the offenses that people are bringing to the table, the hurry-up situations that we see a lot of people run after big plays. Like I said, I just think it puts you in huge kind of gambling mindset of are you going to make that play or are you going to give up 60 yards? So needless to say, I've said Will Grier is the X factor. Without him, that being removed,
Right.
I don't think it's uncomfortably close. And that doesn't matter to me for how much Kyler Murray plays. I think there are enough weapons. We've talked about the young freshman coming on and really stepping up like a CeeDee Lamb.
Uh-huh.
Defensively, you've got Kenneth Murray, who started all season long, basically. So having guys like CeeDee Lamb, you've got Hollywood Brown. Now you've got
you bought in.
I have. I mean, what can I say? And whoever took credit for that on the TV broadcast shouldn't have, because that wasn't his original doing. Needless to say, I saw that on Twitter before I ever heard it on TV. Outside of that, Mark Andrews, like I said, the offensive weapons are there. The offensive line is there. Regardless of who's playing quarterback, I think they still hum along at quite a good clip and basically just leave West Virginia in the dust without Will Grier.
See, that's where I disagree, though. I think the quarterback. I don't think the quarterback is as big a factor in this game as the running backs. This is a game where Oklahoma is going to run the ball. I really feel like, especially without Baker Mayfield, you're going to see a lot of Rodney Anderson. By the way, it's good to see Trey Sermon back in real time, with game on the line minutes last Saturday. Ken Gaskell on Facebook says, just this morning I saw a tweeted video of Lamar Jackson making much more of an offensive gesture towards the sideline. Baker should be fine. And again, it gives. I agree, Ken. I saw the same thing Saturday night, but the difference is Lamar Jackson is not the Heisman front runner, and ESPN did not pick Lamar Jackson. They picked Saquon Barkley or Matt Barkley or Chosen Rosen to win the Heisman Trophy. Matt Barkley. No, what's the?
You got the team right.
Yeah.
You got the name wrong. Sam Darnold.
Yeah, Sam Darnold. Well, Matt Barkley used to play for them. But anyway, Baker Mayfield was not the ESPN guy anointed to win the Heisman Trophy, and therefore he gets the publicity and not Lamar Jackson. And then Ken also said, he goes, "Sorry, Richard, I'm with Matt." Now he doesn't specify which argument he was with me on.
Kyler Murray.
I'm just going to say all of them.
Murray.
I think it's all of them.
Well, we went from quarterback talk to Kyler Murray talk.
Yeah, I'm just going to say all of them. He agrees with me on all of them.
No, you can't claim that.
Yeah, I'm claiming it.
That's okay, man. You go ahead and take it.
I mean, Ken can come back to Facebook and clarify it if I'm wrong, but as of right now, with the information I have to go with, I'm claiming all of them.
It's the Kyler Murray.
I claim victory. Victory over you, Rich. Okay, I'm going to put you on the spot again because I know you love it when I put you on the spot.
Absolutely.
Tuesday night, college football playoff predictions are going to roll out.
Yeah.
There is going to be a Wisconsin problem. Whose problem is Wisconsin going to be?
I told you it's Oklahoma's problem. But the reality is, towards the end of the season, everything's going to shake out.
Right.
And regardless if you're 4 or 5, I think you're in.
How angry is Sooner Nation going to be tomorrow night when those playoff rankings roll out and Oklahoma's number 5?
They're going to be upset.
I mean, whether it's like pitchforks and knives upset, are they going to be more upset over being number 5 or more upset over Baker?
Couches.
No, that's West Virginia. More upset over being number 5 or more upset over Baker Mayfield not starting?
Being number 5.
I agree, but I don't think you can deny Wisconsin at this point. That's the issue that I'm going to say there's going to be a Wisconsin issue.
They have 1 win, Matt.
No, they have 2. They've won back.
They beat Iowa?
Yeah, they beat Iowa, who was ranked.
A team who's lost 2 games in a row now?
And they beat Michigan, who was ranked. But the reality is they're undefeated, and they got 2 wins over top 25 programs. The knock against Wisconsin was they didn't have a win over a top 25 program. Now they've got 2 wins back-to-back. And here's the thing.
Man. Iowa lost to a 4-6 team.
But it doesn't matter. I mean, Clemson lost to Syracuse.
Last week.
Clemson lost to Syracuse.
Last week.
But the reality is you can't deny an undefeated team access to the top 4 spots. So here we go. Rich DeCraig.
I agree with you.
November 20th, 2017, the day before the rankings come out, give me your top 4.
Unfortunately, it doesn't include OU.
Okay, we'll give it to you.
I believe it's going to be Alabama.
Okay.
Miami.
All right.
Clemson. And Wisconsin.
See, I would flop Wisconsin and Clemson. I think Clemson. I think the playoff committee is going to start looking at undefeateds and ranking them accordingly. But here's why Sooner Nation should not be concerned about this. Because Clemson and Miami are going to play each other, and one of them is going to get knocked out. So if you're 5, I think you're good. Wisconsin's going to play Ohio State and most likely lose, and you're going to be fine.
Clemson doesn't have an easy matchup this weekend. They're playing South Carolina at South Carolina.
Yeah, and that's a rivalry game.
It is. And then they'll finish the season with Miami. So, yes, I agree.
I'm just saying, don't be that guy on Twitter Tuesday night when the rankings come out and Oklahoma's number 5. You got to keep in mind, Oklahoma, yes, I believe they have a great resume. They've got the win at Ohio State. They've got the win in Stillwater. They got the win over TCU. But they also have the loss to Iowa State. Mm-hmm. And for that reason, you're going to rent the number 5 spot probably this week with the understanding that you win out, you're in. I mean, that's the thing. It doesn't matter where you are this week. It matters where you are.
And there are a lot more games that are happening this weekend that have, for Oklahoma, obviously winning out, you mentioned, but Alabama's got to play Auburn. And the way that Auburn's playing right now, I wouldn't want to see them.
Right.
I mean, what they showed me against Georgia was that they are a complete team on both sides of the ball, playing complementary football and can control the clock. Obviously, they've continued that, but they're only, I guess, their marquee loss here comes to Clemson, right?
Yeah.
Who else has Auburn lost to? They have 2 losses.
Do they have 2?
Did they lose to Notre Dame?
No.
I can't remember who Auburn played.
You're going to force me to go to the Googles. Are you going to the Googles?
Yeah, I got it.
Oh, you go to the Googles.
Then. I got it. Auburn lost to Clemson as well as LSU. That's who it was.
LSU. Yeah.
Auburn's a team that, I mean, if I'm an Alabama program, I didn't want to see them right now because of how they're peaking at the right moment. You've mentioned later down the road Clemson and Miami. So we have these games that will have implications on the playoff before the close of the season. Where will Oklahoma end at the end of the regular season before we start championship week? They could easily be number 2. Easily.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you've said nothing that I disagree with at all. So, yeah. Let's go through the Big 12 rundown. We're running out of time here rapidly. But the point is, to close that out, the point is, Oklahoma fans, put down the pitchforks and knives and torches because it doesn't really matter where you are on November 21st. It matters where you are on December 5th. That's what you're really looking at. Okay, Big 12 rundown this weekend. Really, I mean, it's a slate of games that, I mean, does it matter? I mean, for Oklahoma, it matters because if you lose, you're out of the playoff running. But, I mean, the Big 12 championship game is pretty much set. Oklahoma versus TCU. Mm-hmm. Iowa State has an outside chance, but they need a lot to happen.
All of the scenarios that were going to play out basically came crashing down.
Yeah, I mean,
if everybody won out, if West Virginia won out, beat Oklahoma this weekend, it's still Oklahoma and TCU. It's just that's a hard combination to break at this point.
I think Iowa State's scenario for this weekend to make it to the Big 12 championship includes Kansas beating Oklahoma State in Stillwater on Senior Day. Not a chance in the world that happens. But let's go through this.
After last week.
Baylor at TCU. I don't know what the health of Kenny Hill is. I think Baylor has a chance in this game.
I don't.
I think they do. It's kind of circle the wagons. This is their bowl game. TCU is a 26-point favorite. I don't bet, but if I did, I would not bet that line. I think Baylor has a chance here. I'm not calling the upset straight up, but I'm saying Baylor has a chance, and you clearly disagree with that.
Yeah, and that's just based on defensive play.
And that's Friday, by the way. That's not Saturday. Friday. Also, you've got Texas Tech at Texas on Friday. Texas Tech 5-6. They've got to win this game to be bowl eligible. The Longhorns got their 6th win of the season in Morgantown last Saturday. 6-5 on the season. By the way, here's a crazy thought. Oklahoma State. We've talked about how bad of a season has been for Texas. Oklahoma State and Texas are tied in the Big 12 rankings at 5-3. Let that sink in for just a minute. Texas 7-5. I'm thinking if Tom Herman can get to 7-5, which I think he will, not a bad year for Texas. Based off of
because they found that fairy dust.
They found the fairy dust. Texas Longhorns 10-point favorite. I say they win this game. I think not only do they win it, I think they win it convincingly, and they send Cliff Kingsbury out.
I was impressed. I shouldn't say I was that impressed, but I picked West Virginia this past week over Texas. That didn't happen for me, so I've had a little bit of a mentality shift in how I approach Texas at this point. So I do agree with you there. Texas, in my opinion at least, has the superior talent level.
Right.
And Texas Tech just has their 4-0 at the beginning of the season to hang their hat.
Well, Texas has talent, they've got physicality, and they've got coaching. It's the trifecta for beating Texas Tech on the road. I mean, at home. Texas Tech playing on the road. Oklahoma State, 40-point favorite against Kansas. Yes or no?
I'm not taking them to cover, but they'll win that game.
Well, of course they're going to win. I want to know, are they going to win by 40 or more?
No.
I think they might. And here's the reason why. I think you're going to see a lot of anger and aggression and frustration taken out. Not because it's Kansas, but because of losing last week.
If they're going to win by that much, they've got to be up by 40 by the third quarter.
Why?
Because I think they're going to pull starters.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't think it matters who's playing for Oklahoma State. They're going to win by 40 plus. Iowa State at Kansas State moving into Saturday's games. Cyclones 7-4. They've never, if I remember this right, they've never gone 8-4. They've never gone to an 8-win season in the Big 12. They're on the road in Manhattan. Bill Snyder, maybe his final home game as the head coach of the Kansas State Wildcats. They became bowl eligible last week. Do they have a little bit of a lull?
Yeah.
Iowa State, I think that's
a big emotional win.
I think this is right for the picking for the Cyclones to come in and get win number 8.
I agree.
Wildcats 2.5-point favorites.
Yep.
Iowa State. Well, that puts us at Oklahoma, West Virginia, 20.5-point favorites for the Sooners. I'm not picking that spread. What do you got? Give me a point score.
My score prediction?
Yep.
I'm not taking that spread either. I believe it'll be somewhere in the range of 38 Oklahoma, 24 West Virginia.
Okay, well, I've got it closer than that, sir. Give me Oklahoma 37, West Virginia 31. I said uncomfortably close. I think when you look at the possible mental factor for this team, not just the Baker Mayfield stuff, but also clinching their spot in the Big 12 championship game. Then you have the Kyler Murray situation coming in, and maybe this offense not clicking the way it normally does. I think this game's uncomfortably close. I think Oklahoma wins it. I think it's the game I think this is going to be a game where Oklahoma never trails, but it just stays close. I got Oklahoma 37-31 over the Mountaineers. I'm hoping that you come back on Monday of next week and say, dude, you were insane with that pick. I hope that's the case. But anyway, hey, we're looking forward to a great week at heartland-sports.com. Heartland-sports.com. I want to say thank you to everybody who checked in with this. Thanks for listening, whether you're catching us on iTunes or you're catching us on heartland-sports.com or Facebook Live. We'll have more coverage and recaps coming on the weekend. Have a great week, everybody. And by the way, Rich, you have committed the holiday foul because you have your Christmas tree almost up, and it's not even Thanksgiving. But the Christmas tree is out in your house. Shame on you, sir. Shame on you. Happy Thanksgiving anyway.